The Yasuke narrative has completely fallen apart at the seams. Ubisoft has claimed that the game is completely historically accurate. Look at all these sources, and all the sources have been traced back to one guy who has been completely and utterly debunked. Whenever you see a native Japanese defender of Yasuke the Black Samurai, you get a lot of YouTubers, a lot of fake historians, a lot of Communist Party shills, right? To the point where people are starting to notice the stereotypes when it comes to like the people who try and shill this kind of thing, right? It's not only just a thing here. It has officially made its way into Japan. It is undeniable at this point. The attempts at forcing some Afrocentric narrative onto Japan has completely and utterly failed, right? This is the reality of the situation, is that all of the authority figures, all of the shills, all of the historians, they are getting wrecked. And they aren't the only ones. I do think this is the most important takeaway to be made from this situation, is that everything they try and tell you is a lie, is what it all boils down to. It's not just Yasuke. It's not just like recent history or like the past 10 years. Like, they have been trying to rewrite history to suit their narrative for forever, since like the 60s at least. They have been trying to normalize homosexuality. They've been trying to normalize degeneracy and just disgusting behavior, filth, and it all just has escalated to the point now where people are finally starting to understand that there's something wrong with the institutions. There's something wrong with the experts, right? The experts are essentially paid shills. Is what it all comes down to, right? It's not just video games. It's not just history. It's not just it's everywhere, right? It's not just a niche group of people, right? It is an elaborate network of individuals trying to convince you that to hate yourself and your country and all of you. Actually, not even just yourself at this point, because that's always the narrative I see on online, stuff like, oh, like, hate your white heritage. Like, no, it's Japanese people aren't white, right? It's not just us who are getting screwed over by globalists, right? It's not just us who are being forced to kneel, or attempting to be forced to kneel to like worship like these historical figures that literally do not exist, right? It isn't just gamers. It isn't just like Republicans in the West. It's not just like it's everywhere, right? And for me, what seems to be happening is that more and more people are starting to take a stand in regard to like the narrative and doing everything they can to subvert it. And it's coming from really unexpected areas, right? J.K. Rowling is a really good example of someone who comes out and shills for like 99% of like liberal causes. Like, she is a feminist, she is pro-immigration, she is a shill for like for labor, right? Right. We know that Rowling is scum in 99% of aspects, but she is also very vehemently against trannies, right? She is the only major literary figure today who is coming out and openly acknowledging that transgender women are men, right? She's the only person with a high enough IQ to figure that out, right? Meanwhile, like everyone else in the sphere, other popular writers, nearly all the actors in the Harry Potter films, everybody involved in the brand, like they're all like trying to shield against her, like, no, it's not true, it's impossible. But in reality, nobody listens to them, nobody cares, nobody respects them. Like, everybody has respect for Rowling for coming out and stating the obvious. And it is Rowling that people will listen to. It is Rowling that people will listen to and respect for that reason, because she is right about that specific issue. Not necessarily everything else, but it is her that is utilizing her wealth and resources to avoid being canceled, to avoid being ignored by the general population, to speak out for the truth, right? To speak out against the narrative, the agenda, the reality of the situation is that men are ruining everything, like what exactly is so hard to understand about that? And that should be commended, right? J.K. Rowling deserves respect for what she's doing. And I think going forward, all of the narratives are going to collapse because of people like that. Yasuke, which I can tell you has been a narrative that Japanese historians have been trying to establish for quite a long time. He was mentioned in that Japanese history book I read a while back. I can tell you that historians have been trying to make the Yasuke thing a thing for a long time, but seeing it get dismantled because of a video game trying to shill him as a samurai is phenomenal to see, right? Black Lives Matter kind of dismantled the whole black supremacy movement, right? Feminism is on the collapse. People are beginning to realize who really controls the government. There are, again, I said this in 2020, and I think it holds especially true now. It feels as if the establishment is losing control over everything that they used to have a stranglehold over in the 80s and 90s. Back in the day when that idiot, what is his name? The comedian that everyone pretends is anti-woke but isn't. What is his name? Damn. I made fun of him a while ago. But there was again, back in the 80s and 90s, you would get all this extremely woke material that was just passed off as jokes. Starship Troopers, right? American Beauty, right? Again, this stuff was seen as major cultural landmarks. These huge phenomenal marks of the current state of American culture, but it was actually just propaganda, and people are starting to see through it, right? So not only is the current wave of propaganda not effective, people are beginning to go back and denounce established classic propaganda. This stuff from 20 and 30 years ago that led us to where we were today. That is very culturally significant. That more than anything shows that we are a race of people that are healing, that are recovering, that are rejecting the message. And it is only going to get better from here if we continue working hard, pushing back, and doing everything we possibly can to save our culture from itself.